Have you ever made a decision you later regretted? A purchase, a career move, even a throwaway comment, and thought, why on earth did I do that? It seems so illogical now. What if, in that moment, you weren't fully at the wheel? What if silent mental shortcuts were steering, subtly bending your choices, and even your perception of reality? This isn't a question of intelligence or willpower. It's how brains work under pressure and uncertainty. Today, we'll uncover the invisible architecture of cognitive biases and learn how to spot them, stop them, and steer with clarity. Here's where we're going. First, we'll challenge the myth of objective seeing and meet the brain as an interpreter, not a camera. Second, we'll explore 3 greatest hits biases: confirmation bias, the availability heuristic, and the sunk cost fallacy. Third, we'll watch these biases at work in politics, purchasing, and everyday conversations. Fourth, we'll build a practical toolkit to become your own reality architect. Finally, we'll lay out a simple routine to keep bias awareness alive, so better decisions become your default. Let's meet 3 heavy hitters that shape your reality every day. This is the tendency to search for, favor, and remember information that confirms what you already believe. It feels good to be right, so your brain gives extra weight to evidence that says exactly and discounts the rest. You follow sources that match your views. You see critical reporting as fair when it favors your side and biased when it doesn't. Over time, you don't just live in a bubble. The bubble lives in you. What comes easily to mind feels common and important, especially if it's vivid, recent, or emotional. A plane crash dominates headlines. Flying suddenly feels dangerous, even though, honestly, the drive to the airport is statistically riskier. Shark attacks terrify. Falling ladders barely register. The brain privileges images with emotional punch, not quiet statistics. When in doubt, keep going, because I've already invested so much. We pour money into an old car long after it's rational. We stay in a career or relationship that no longer fits because walking away would waste the years. The truth is, sunk costs are gone whether you stay or leave. But loss aversion makes quitting feel like a fresh loss, so we double down and dig deeper. Biases don't live in textbooks. They live in our feeds, ballots, and baskets. In politics, confirmation bias supercharges polarization. We subscribe to aligned voices, our feeds mirror our beliefs, and the world looks unanimous from where we stand. A single memorable gaffe can overshadow years of competent work because the availability heuristic loves a gripping story over a balanced record. In consumer life, marketers court your beliefs first, specs come later. Once a positive impression forms, confirmation bias filters reviews for you. Advertisers know availability rules the heart, so they sell moments and transformations more than features and numbers. In daily conversations, we narrate to save face. You hyped a new restaurant, it was just okay, and yet you still describe it as great because consistency feels safer than admitting surprise. Now scale that same mechanism to money, careers, and voting, and its power becomes obvious. You're not powerless. Awareness creates leverage, you know. Here's a practical toolkit. Before you decide, or right after a strong reaction, ask yourself, what story am I telling myself? What else could be true? Which bias might be tugging my sleeve right now? That brief space between stimulus and response is where better choices live. Make it a rule. Before you commit, gather the best argument against your position, not a straw man, a Steelman. Read or watch something smart from the other side and summarize it fairly. If your view survives, it returns stronger. If it doesn't, you just saved future you. Imagine your decision failed spectacularly 6 months from now. What went wrong? List 5 reasons and design safeguards today. This preemptively punctures confirmation bias and availability's love of hype. Ask what usually happens in situations like this. Look for broad statistics or reference classes. Your situation is special to you, but it probably rhymes with many others. The outside view cools hot narratives. If I were deciding from scratch today, no history, no prior spend, would I still choose this? If the answer is no, you have your signal. Past investment is not a reason, it's a trap. If this vivid story hadn't crossed my feed, what would I conclude from the numbers? Train yourself to seek the dull but representative data before trusting the dramatic outlier. Invite someone you trust to challenge your thinking. Give them permission to poke holes, then reward them for doing it. Thank you keeps your ego calm while your model improves. Regularly read, watch, or talk to people outside your bubble without turning it into a debate. Curiosity disarms confirmation bias more effectively than combat. For those recurring high-stakes choices, it's really helpful to use a short checklist. So first, ask yourself, what is my goal? Then what base rates apply? Next, consider what would change your mind. Also, what are the best counter-arguments? And finally, what bias is most likely here, and what single action offsets it? Bias literacy is a practical superpower. It saves money, time, and relationships. You become harder to manipulate, more aligned with long-term values, and honestly, just easier to talk to, because you assume others are also navigating invisible shortcuts, not acting in bad faith. When tempers flare, ask, which bias might be active here? Maybe a vivid anecdote is hijacking perspective. Maybe a cherished identity is under threat. That lens invites empathy without surrendering rigor. Day 1. Choose one decision this week and run a 60-second metacognitive pause before committing. Day 2. Steelman, the best opposing view for 5 minutes, out loud or on paper. Day 3. Do a pre-mortem on that decision. Add one safeguard. Day 4. Look up base rates or a relevant reference class. Write one sentence that begins, typically. Day 5. Run the sunk cost test on anything you're continuing. Project, subscription, plan. Day 6. Availability check. Find one boring representative dataset and let it inform your view. Day 7. Debrief for 10 minutes. What surprised you? What will you keep? If you notice bias and feel defensive, smile. That's the system doing what it evolved to do. Name it and move on. If you can't find opposing views you respect, you're not looking widely enough. Expand your sources. If a decision still feels muddy, shrink the stakes, test small, learn fast, then scale. Then, your brain is brilliant and biased. That's not a flaw. It's a starting point. The moment you see the storyteller at work, you can co-author the story. Pause, question, cross-check, invite disconfirming evidence. And when a vivid headline or a past investment tugs hard, ask the quiet question that changes trajectories. What if the story I'm telling myself isn't the whole truth? Start there and watch your decisions and your life get clearer.